what does it call it?
When's mummy coming back? Daddy, when's mummy coming back?
You need to know that. Okay. That's you. So how do you want to start this?
I don't want it to be like an introduction, like, hi, my name's so-and-so, because people know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Just go straight into like the first question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why am I here today, Raj?
You are here to help me spread the message for men's mental health. And if you are feeling down, rock bottom, there is a way out. And I'm going to share my story, what I did.
Because what actually happened is you emailed me.
Yeah.
And you said, I have something I want to say.
Yeah.
And I emailed you about a year and a half ago, but you didn't respond.
Yeah.
And in a way, I'm glad you didn't respond, because I wouldn't have been ready then.
Yeah. And I wasn't ready either. Yeah.
And then when you did get back in touch, it was really divine timing, because I had some space. I was massively inspired by the journey that you shared. And I think it's equally as important that we have men, especially men from our community, that are willing to share stories of vulnerability, resilience, but also like real life. So when you said, Melina, can you come and have another chat? I was like, yeah. Because I believe in what you're doing. And I think it's really important that we continue to tell those types of stories. So I'm really grateful that you did reach out. Yeah. And I know it wasn't an easy reach out. Yeah. And it took time.
It did take time. Mm-hmm. But again, I think the timing is right now.
I agree. Yeah. So we are here because you've written a book.
Yep.
So this was the main thing. So tell me about the book.
So the book, I set myself a deadline to write the book within, say, 2 months. I was on track to write it, but at 10,000 words, I lost everything. And I was just distraught. I remember sitting at home on the phone to Microsoft, and I was like, where has it gone? 10,000 words. I'm writing a book. Naveen comes along, shows me a homework, and out of anger, I said, Naveen, just leave me alone. And she was like, oh, okay. And then she left, and I was just on the phone to Microsoft, well, where is it? I spent 10,000, all these hours doing it, and I'd lost it. And it took me a year after to get back into it. I just couldn't be asked. I really, really could not be bothered to do it. But there's a reason for everything. I started writing that book in a position of anger. I think I was so angry and annoyed and pissed off just about the situation, the shit that people gave me from moving forward in my life. Mm-hmm. I wrote everything down, and it would have hurt a lot of people.
So let's talk about that, because when I met you 5 years, almost 6 years ago, it was shortly after your wife Nim had passed away. Yeah. And we were there recording a podcast called Fresh to Death, which, for anybody who wants to listen to it, it's still available on BBC Sounds. And it was a beautiful opportunity to look at all the ways in which we, as British Asians, the South Asian community process grief and loss, and looking at the way we hold space with our rituals, but also the way we sometimes alienate each other through some of the cultural conditioning that exists around what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and how you're supposed to grieve. And that episode was so powerful. And it was so honest, because I hadn't ever really heard a father, such a young dad, like similar age to me, who was really sort of willing to be honest and open about some of the challenges that you'd experienced, not just from processing, a partner being unwell, but then also losing a partner, and then what came after. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, to sort of revisit some of that, to get a better understanding of why you wrote the book. Because that is really important to sort of understand where you were at. Can you just, for us, paint that picture of what life was like even before your wife then, Nim, before the illness, what life was like, where you guys were at?
Life then was, you could say, perfect. It was really, really stress-free. There was no issues or worries about family, friends, finances, job stability. Everything was going for us. We got married in 2008. Naveen was born the following year. And then Avani was born in 2013, sorry. But when Avani was born, again, we got a little bit of hate. Oh, what did you have? Oh, about a girl. Oh, it doesn't matter. Next time, you'll have a boy. We're like, why are people saying that? So when Nim fell pregnant, third time, she put a lot of pressure on herself because she really wanted a boy, because she didn't want to deal with all the people out there that made those nasty type of comments. And so when it was a 20-week scan, like the midwife said, she put the scan jelly thing on her belly. Said, "Do you want to know what it is?" And we looked at each other. We like, she goes, "Do you want to know? Because I can tell you." And we were like, "Okay, go on then." She goes, "You're going to have a baby boy." And that's it. Nim just burst into tears. She held my hand, and it was just a sense of relief. Just so much anger, stress had just gone away. Because those 20 weeks were tough for her, and she was taking it out on me, And so Vian was born. And
so you guys felt the stress of that, even though you personally maybe didn't.
I didn't
mind
to be honest,
what
if it was another girl, it doesn't matter. The main thing was that the baby was healthy, but because she was so stressed about what other people were going to say, it had an impact on us.
Okay.
But when we were told that it was a baby boy, it was just like, oh, great, bliss. Vian was born, and it was like everything we had our perfect little family. It was so nice, The energy at home, the atmosphere had gone from here to here.
So then when you say things were just perfect, everything was great, do you ever look back and think, well, actually it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't the type of stress that maybe I then experienced afterwards? Or do you still...
maybe at the time things weren't perfect, but I'm probably comparing that time to the time after her death, because it was just chaos after her passing away. And when I reflect and look back, I think life was perfect then. It probably wasn't, but that's what I'm probably clinging on to, because we had so many plans together.
And so then, that dynamic, that family dynamic, kind of had everyone's approval. Everything felt right. Everything felt nice. And then what happened after Nim got diagnosed?
They sat us down, said to Nim, unfortunately the results aren't good. We found cancerous cells, and your life is cut short, and there's no treatment that'll get rid of it. And it's like, oh my God, man. Then she burst into tears. There was a bit of silence, and then she was sniffling away, like crying. And then we sat in the car. Then I went back in. I said, I just want to ask the consultant a question. So I went back in. And I said, when you said she hasn't got, her life is cut short, how long? That's when she said, do you really want to know? I was like, yeah, tell me. She's probably got about 18 months, 2 years left. So I'm like, okay. I went back to the car. She said, what did you ask? I said, I just wanted to ask the doctor about the next step is. But I didn't tell her. I thought that would just break her in half.
Did it ever cross your mind that maybe she would want to know that?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that, because at the time, probably her initial thought was, kids. Am I going to beat this cancer? And if I'm not, what about the children?
And what was going through your mind at that time?
My mind at that time was like, right, I can't tell her that. She's literally been served a death sentence, and if I tell her how long, that will probably kill her quicker.
How do you think that affected you?
I processed it. I thought I'd been told that my wife's been given maximum 2 years, and I left it as that. So I kept that to myself. I didn't tell anyone. I'm quite an optimistic guy. And I thought, okay, so this is what she's been told. This is what she has. What's the next step? I didn't even look at the fact that she only had 18 months, 2 years left.
And in hindsight, Do you think that taking on that kind of truth and holding it and being kind of the only person that knew, at least what the doctors had told you? Of course, I'm a massive believer, and I know you are. There's many holistic ways that we can look at things. Western medicine is amazing, but it doesn't always. There's so many stories when, people have been told this is what it is and this is how long, and actually people beat the odds so often. And at the same time, you're still walking around with that information, with that knowledge. And where you had sort of tried to be positive, does any part of you in hindsight look back at that now and think, maybe I could have shared that with somebody in a safe space where I could have unburdened myself?
There wouldn't have been a single person that would have been able to process that information. It would have broken them even more. Family members I'm talking about.
I wasn't talking about family members.
Who were you talking about?
So this is where it's like, well, at that point,
yeah,
and this is interesting, right? Because it probably didn't even occur to you. Or maybe I could get some support. Maybe I could go speak to a therapist, or maybe I could speak to a friend, or maybe I could... Exactly.
Absolutely
it's
not.
like...
So there was a friend that I told, not about how long she had left. I said, look, I'm going through a bit of a shit time. Nim's been diagnosed with cancer, And the response I got back is that I've got my own shit going on. And I was like, okay. And after that, I thought, I'm in this myself. So, and that's when I thought, I can't trust anyone with this information. So, but I was practicing mental toughness for years before. Years of reading books, audiobooks, podcasts.
What's mental toughness?
It's so you can deal with shit like this.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't break down. It took me a long time to break down and actually cry.
So then at what point did the emotions catch up with you?
It took me 3 years, I think, after Nim passed away to cry in front of the kids.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the mental resilience and the mental toughness. You can get through something without emotionally getting your emotions taken over. People drink to suppress the pain. I was drinking to feel the pain. So I was getting pissed, drinking wine, vodka, you name it, in the evenings after putting the kids to bed, just trying to feel the pain. Following year is when I was like, shit, man, this is my life. It hit me. Because Nim's family took the children away on a holiday and I was just left alone, working, come back, food in the oven. And I remember just sitting there at the dinner table and looked around. There's like a pile of clothes there that needed putting away. There were some clothes in the washing machine. I thought, I need to take them out. Or I need to put them in the tumble dryer. I need to put them out to dry. But I thought, I haven't got the energy. So I'll just whack another tablet in and put it back on.
When was your rock bottom?
There's so many times. Rock bottom for me is like this. It's taken me a long time to appreciate how far I've come. I never used to reflect. I used to think, what if I'm feeling down? Like, what are you feeling down for? I'm very hard on myself. Very hard. And I've been told so many times, you shouldn't be hard on yourself. Look at where you've come from, what you went through, where you are now. Mm-hmm. And I do look back. And just talking about the past, I thought they're the things I needed to do to get through that time.
What's interesting about what you said is I wasn't trying to numb, I was trying to feel.
Yeah.
And that is something I think when it comes to any kind of substance abuse or what you're using to sort of, it's a depressant, yes, but it helps you get into a feeling that you had sort of told yourself when you were waking up and doing the mental...
Yeah.
What do you call it?
The mental toughness.
The mental toughness.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't feel that.
I
shouldn't feel that. So you had to almost take yourself there in another way.
So it was like when Nim passed away at home, it was the point where it's about 11:30 at night. She took her last breaths on the bed at home. And it was just absolutely chaos. When I mean chaos, somebody should pass away peacefully. But certain people, they try to bring her back to life. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And that's when I just stood just trying to think what the hell's going on. And I kind of had a body experience. So I just came out and I was just looking around. Everyone was shouting, screaming, wailing. And that's when I came back and said, just stop. Everyone just stop. Pick her up. So we picked her up, put her back on the bed. I said, she's not coming back. She's gone. And I accepted it ages ago that this was going to happen. Because I've worked in the funeral industry, so I know what happens when somebody passes away. Mm-hmm. So it was like a movie in my head. I thought, okay, when she passes away, call the funeral directors, they'll come, put in a body bag, zip her up and take her. And I tried to prepare everybody, but obviously you can't. So
you were still doing a lot of the space holding, right? Because there's like the witness and the thinker. At any one time, we're experiencing both people, right? So I'm my thinking mind, or I'm witnessing myself in this moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we're just in that, what am I thinking? What am I supposed to think? What am I supposed to do? It's hard to really look, and that's like your higher self, right? Your witness, be like, okay, here's what I need to do in this moment, and I need to find a way to bring peace and order to a situation. And often we're unable to then also feel our emotions at the same time. So that's what it sounds like to me, Rod, is you had kind of been doing that consistently for a long time.
I had to, because when she was diagnosed, we had to process it, Nim had to process it, but when she told certain family members, they made it about them. Mm-hmm. It's like, why is it happening to me? And Nim was like, it's not happening to you, it's happening to me. I said, that's when that role started. And then when Nim had passed away, the funeral directors came, they took her. All I remember is my mum tapping me on the back saying, look, why don't you cry as well? I was like, Mum, I can't. I physically cannot cry. Because again, I knew all this was going to happen. And I had mentally prepared myself for it.
And so then how did you prepare yourself to be both mum and dad after her passing?
So I took the role of... I've always been a hands-on dad. So again, I know how to do the washing machine, the dryer, now to bathe the kids. Again, changing nappies since they were young. Mm. And I just fell into that role.
And how old were your kids at the time?
Naveen, she was 9 years old. Avani was 5 and Viren was 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So they could see that she was deteriorating. And I was like, okay, the doctors are trying to fix Mummy. And they're like, okay, that's fine. But as she got worse, she had radiotherapy, and they said if it doesn't work, she got 6 weeks left. That's when I said to the kids, all right, they're going to try something new. If it doesn't work, Mummy may go to Babaji in the sky. And then when they sent her home, that's when I said to the kids, I said, okay, Mummy's not well. She's probably going to go to Babaji in the sky. Naveen didn't deal with it quite well. She was crying. And then it was like here, so that the bed was here. When you come down the stairs, you can just see Nim lying there, watching TV or asleep. And she passed away at 11:30 at night. Obviously, the kids coming downstairs expecting her to be there. But the funeral directors took her away about 1:30, 2 in the morning. Naveen came down first. Where's Mummy? I said, Mummy's now with Babaji in the sky. She literally ran back upstairs, closed the door, and she just started crying. So I sat down on the floor with her, gave her a hug. And the words I wanted to say to her was like, it's going to be okay. But that would have been a lie. Because I didn't know if it was going to be okay. So I didn't say anything, and I just hugged her. Then Avani comes downstairs. Then we sat in the other room. And said, look, Mummy's now with Babaji in the sky. She puts the TV on. It was a total different reaction to Naveen. It was very, very, very different. She said, so how did Mummy go? I said, well, Babaji said, come on, Mummy, it's time for you to come up now. So Babaji came down and she said, before you go, Mummy, give your children a kiss goodnight. And then she flew up to the sky with Babaji. She didn't say anything for about 10-15 seconds. Then she said, oh, can we FaceTime Mummy? I was like, no, Wani, we can't. Mummy's left her phone here, and it's literally on the mantelpiece. With Viren, 3 years old, where's Mummy? When's Mummy coming back? That was the hardest challenge for me, because for about 34 days straight, and I remember this, 34 days straight, Nim died at age 34, and he would say, when's Mummy coming back? Mummy's with Babaji in the sky. and he would just stand at the window, look up, "Mummy, where are you? When are you coming back?" And that was just heartbreaking. Even just driving, he would just look out the window like this, and I'd just watch him. "I miss you, Mummy." You know, that was tough.
And it's a different type of grief, because you're not just grieving for your own loss. You're feeling that from your children.
Yeah.
You're grieving for them not having, their other parent with them now.
Yeah.
And you're grieving for all of the space that you can't fill for them.
Yeah, I had to push my feelings aside and make sure the kids had a normal upbringing. But normal is having a mum there and a dad there. But their mum has died. So how can you make it as normal as possible?
And so what conversations did you have with your children about grief? And how did you kind of get them through it? Or how are you getting them through it?
So in the initial days, it was like, "Mummy's still here. You can just talk and Mummy will hear." Bloody hell, that was the wrong thing to say. For them, it was like, "What? Mummy's a ghost. Is she here?" I said, I shouldn't have said that. But again, this is all new to me.
But there's no right or wrong thing to say. It's also, you're just trying, you too don't know what to say to yourself.
There's no manual for grief, So you're literally taking it day by day. And so I never said that again. You can write a letter, you can do drawings, you can do anything, and we can post it. We can see if it goes to Babaji in the sky, and then he'll read it out to Mummy. So it did take a bit of time, but I did have the support. So a couple of Nim's family members, they actually moved into our house when Nim was ill. So they helped with the cooking and the cleaning and make sure she was okay, the kids all right, because I obviously still had to work, being self-employed.
And with other people being around the kids, again, it's probably not something you even thought to talk about. It's I can't even imagine when it comes down to something like that, where it's how do I also now get us all on the same page with how I want the kids to understand what they're feeling?
I felt that resistance from early on. Any decision I was going to make, I thought, okay, am I going to get a pushback here? When it came to the kids, right, are you going to take kids to the funeral? Yeah. I don't think you should, it's going to be the last memory, of their mum. I was like, no, I'm going to do it. Because if they grow up and they say, well, why don't we go to Mummy's funeral? Then what? I can't turn back time.
Almost 7 years on, how has the conversations between you and the kids now, how's that shifted when it comes to grief and their mum?
So I think making all these decisions, not listening to the naysayers, has made it easier for them. It's built up that mental resilience. And one thing I want to add is all these people that are pushing back, they're no longer in my life, and I think just imagine if I did listen to them. So talking about grief, they all deal with it differently. So for example, Naveen, how would I put it with Nim passing away? I think she's very, very happy, and she tends not to think about what happened.
Okay.
Because she was 9 years old.
Yeah.
But if you ask her now, she's content. In a few months,
I mean, and often I think with kids and girls especially, when you get into a place where you're sort of starting to form your identity a bit more, then maybe there's more of a reflection point. Because my younger sister lost our dad. I was 28, but she was only 8. And she's almost 20 now. And only now is she starting to think, actually, I don't think I processed a lot of that, because I didn't even know how I felt about it. And she wasn't really thinking about it in the same way she is now, because she's sort of, her identity is shifting, the way she perceives the world is different. So now she's starting to reflect a little bit more about who she is in a world without her dad in it. So again, it's it's not binary in that way. Like you said, it's like this all the time. And so it's interesting, because now it's more about, I guess, the tools that you're giving them, right? For when they're ready to then go deeper into their journey, whatever that looks like.
With Avani, she was 5 at the time, and even then, when I told Naveen about Nim passing, Naveen cried. Avani didn't. She just carried on with the TV. She processed it in a totally different way, and that shows now. I do get a bit worried about Avani because she doesn't really share, and I don't want her to release, if it's anger, the grief in a negative way.
Because now it's not just you
No.
and the kids.
Yeah.
Things have shifted a lot.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about how things have shifted in terms of that family dynamic?
Yeah, so we went from a family of 5 down to a family of 4. Now we're up to a family of 8. 9 if you want to include Benson, you know, the big XL bully. But it has not been easy. It has not been easy. It's been a bit of a struggle. Still trying to deal with grief. You know, I don't think I ever grieved properly. Mm-hmm. So dealing with grief and dealing with outsiders trying to intervene with my family now.
I also just want to take a moment. Is there a way to grieve properly?
Good question. Is there a way to grieve properly? Again, there's no manual for grief. So some people will grieve there and then, or some people may never grieve. But
so when you say you never grieve properly, what do you actually mean?
I suppose the way society wants you to grieve. Cry, break down, let it out of your system. That's what I mean by grieving properly according to society standards.
Mm-hmm. And to you, what does it mean?
Grief, to me, what does it mean?
Or when you're saying, like, it's not a trick question. It's like when you say, I don't think I grieved properly, what it sounds like you're actually saying is, I didn't have the chance to just let that shit go for myself.
Yeah.
I didn't have the chance to actually, like, do, obviously the drinking came, but you still, that was coming, that was still behind closed doors. That was still away from, out of sight of everyone.
Yeah.
Like, what you didn't get the chance to be was witnessed in your grief.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Is like when we're like, oh, we didn't get the chance to. It's really no one held the space for me to do whatever I needed to do. I don't know if that's what you mean, but I'm trying to get a sense of, because I have a feeling that in this book that we're going to get on to talk about, because there's a lot in the book that you're speaking about now, but in the book, I would maybe say that's like a cathartic way of you processing your grief in some capacity.
According to society, it's a time frame, right? It should happen between the person diagnosed or death for maybe a month or two or a year, 3 years after. But it didn't work like that for me. Again, I was on robot mode, and I met with somebody 2 weeks ago, one of my old neighbours. He goes, yeah, when Nim passed away, I asked you, how are you? You're like, yeah, I'm good. He goes, you were literally like a robot. And I was, because I couldn't feel the emotion. Was I grieving then? Yes, probably. Some people might say, no, grief hadn't hit him yet. But again, what is grief? So I actually don't know. That's a good question.
Do you think you're trying to find the answer in this book?
The reason for the book is to share my experience, what the things that I did going through this grief period. I don't even know what grief means now. So going through that period and the things I did, what worked for me. And fingers crossed, it will help other people.
So when you were really experiencing the constant sort of questions from the kids when Nim first passes away, and you are obviously just trying to process your own grief and then also explain to them what's going on, and for the month where everyone was asking, you know, when's mom coming home, how did you find ways to soothe him? Was there anything you could say to soothe him?
It was just a case of being honest with him, say that mummy's never coming back. And that was so hard to tell a 3-year-old boy, your mummy's never, ever, ever coming back. Because how can somebody his age process death? He doesn't know what death is. Nim did write letters for the children. I gave the letters to the kids when we scattered their ashes. I opened it up and I did not have the courage to read it. I just read the first words and I just started to cry. I thought, I can't do this. So it took me a year and a half later to read it to the kids or give it to them.
Did she let you know, did she intend, when she intended for them to read the letters, or just whenever you felt the time was right?
So it was just whenever, yeah.
I think that's so special because, again, with a lot of the things that you're questioning, it's what do you say? How do you say it? And when you do know you're passing, there's something so profound about being able to, you know, in your own words, bring comfort to the people that you love. What was in the letter?
It's quite emotional. I've got it here.
Okay.
And I did read it to him, but again, he was a bit too young.
Okay.
So I will read it out because it is something, again, to share this experience. If somebody is going through this, whether you're mum, you're a dad, write a letter for your children, because I think it would really, really help. 100% it will really help. It will hit you here, but I think it will definitely help, because there's only so much videos and photos that you can get from that. But this is something coming
like directly speaking.
This is from Nim's heart to each of her 3 kids.
So whose letter is that?
So this is Viren's letter.
Okay.
To my gorgeous boy, Viren. Your Mossy is helping me write this because I'm not well enough to write it myself. Firstly, V, Mummy wants to say thank you. Thank you for completing our little family and filling my heart with so much love and happiness. I wanted you for such a long time. And when I found out that you were growing in my tummy, it made me happy every day. And it made my day brighter. I have never felt prouder having you as my son, my baby boy. I love you so, so much, my darling. You have been so funny and kind, gentle, loving. Before I was ill, and especially during my illness, you are the most perfect little boy I could have hoped to have. I'm very poorly at the moment, and I know you've seen Mummy change a lot. There hasn't been a day that I haven't thought about you, and there won't ever be. I'm trying my best to get well for you and your sisters. I know it's very hard to see me change and feel as though things are very, very different. The doctors have been trying very hard to make me better. I know that you have too, but some things happen that we can't change. You have seen things happen that we cannot change, and a lot's happened in the 3 years that you've been here with me, and you've made me smile every single day. You have met all the nurses, and you're helping me, and you're helping them, and you've shown them all your toy guns. You've put your gloves on, and you helped check my heartbeat, you helped check my heart, and give me a massage on my arms and legs. You've been with me every single day, and I will still be with you. Your family loves you very, very much, and they'll be there whenever you feel scared or you feel worried or upset, especially Daddy. Even if you can't see me, I will always be listening and watching over you. I have always been very proud of you, and I always will be. You are so kind and caring, and have made me smile every day. Always be proud of who you are and what you'll become. You are my littlest baby, but you have shown me what a big boy you are and how you will be when you grow up. Being the youngest, meaning you have 2 big sisters to love you too and share our memories and stories with you. You will always have each other. Vera, my darling, Mommy might be too weak to fight this illness. If I am and the medicines don't work, then I'll be safe with Babaji in the sky. I'm sorry I won't be there to help you, but I promise I'll always be with you forever. You'll be in my heart no matter what. I hope one day, when you're old enough, that you can understand why I had to go, but that I would never have chosen this. I love you so much, my special boy. I hope you will remember these 3 years for the happiness and the love we shared as a family. I love you more than you will ever know, my gorgeous prince. All my love forever, Mummy.
Yeah. That makes it very real, doesn't it? For somebody listening to your story, you know, hearing from her is very powerful. And understanding now actually why you are the father that you are was because she was the mother that she was. That's so powerful.
And there are times when I was being a mummy and daddy, and I was like, how do I get through this? How do I get through the homework? The kid's not listening, the kid's not eating. It was Nim. She was lying on a deathbed. She wrote this letter. She wrote the other 2 letters. For us, one person has left our life. For her, she sat there analysing the room, thinking, okay, there's Viren, Avani, Naveen. I'm going to leave them behind. It's my husband. I've known since my teens. I'm going to leave him behind. My parents, my in-laws, siblings. We've lost one person. She's lost hundreds, thousands even. And that's what got me through. She didn't go through physical pain. It was mental pain that she went through.
Mm-hmm. And that testament there of her capacity to write those love letters to her children and think of them, and you too, you know, not wanting you to have to do all the explaining, you know, actually having the chance to communicate with them, you know, posthumously for many years to come. And I think as a person that has lost a parent and has never had the opportunity, and it was sudden, you know, so to not have the opportunity to know how they might have felt if they knew that they weren't going to be in my life is such a gift. And it, you know, and also the way that she was able to articulate to a 3-year-old, you know, the things about what he did for her and how he interacted with her. Like, those are the things that he'll be able to imagine, even if he can't remember, you know. So it's so thoughtfully written, and I think that thoughtfulness will transcend into your children. It's you know, you're so thoughtful as well in terms of how you want to go about communicating with your kids,
and it still chokes me up.
Of course,
but I think it hurts me, chokes me up even more, the fact that I wanted to end it last year, and I'm reading this. I say, hang on, Nim's written this letter, and it's an instruction, it's a wish. Her wish is for me to take care of the kids, and I nearly let that go. I nearly didn't fulfill her wish.
I hear that, and I also think that there is a part of you that maybe still also needs to realise that it's not through choice that you have those thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, it's not through choice. It's not like, well, I'm choosing to feel like I want to end it. You know, there's still some judgment to yourself there, which is like, oh my God, and I thought I could do that. No, there was obviously mental illness, mental health. It's something that you really need to appreciate, just like she had a physical illness. You know, the mind and the way that the mind processes is also, it sometimes gets unwell, and we can't blame ourselves for getting unwell. We just take radical responsibility for saying, all right, I'm going to do what I need to do to get better. But you can't blame yourself for having those thoughts. And I think that is what happens.
And I really blame myself. If I had broken my legs, my arms, and I couldn't get out, right, that's acceptable. But when you've broken your mind, so to speak, that's not acceptable. If I was to say to someone, a friend or a client, say, I can't do this for you because I've got mental health issues, they wouldn't accept that.
You're not choosing those thoughts.
But in my head, I am.
I mean, I don't want to also devoid you of any accountability and responsibility, but I do think it is really important, because there is 100% a reality when people are in the depths of that self-loathing, that pain, that self-sabotage, like, it's so real. And we also know there is help available. So it's your responsibility to seek out the support if you want to break that cycle. And sometimes, unfortunately, the self-sabotage is so great that we can't even recognize that we're worthy of breaking that cycle.
100%. I went through that. It was a case of, you've done so well, and now you can't even do a simple thing, it all just got so much for me.
So noisy.
Yeah. And like, how do I switch it off? And there'd be times I'd be just sat in the car, come out from work, like, just go, man, leave me alone.
And how would you do that? Would you like try and just get space? Would you go for walks? Would you what would you do to try and...
So walks with Benson, with headphones on, listening to music. You know, there was one album which really, really got me through. It's by Jelly Roll.
Right. I was like, please let it be a good album.
Yeah, but the name, like Jelly Roll, what is that?
I have no idea what that is.
Honestly, for anyone who's going through a really, really bad
Listen
time,
to Jelly Roll.
Jelly Roll.
Jelly Roll.
It's a bloke.
Okay,
It's a bloke called Jelly
right.
Roll, yeah? And he went through a really tough time. Every single one of his songs talks about the tough times, the dark times, suicidal
But don't
thoughts.
you think that's why music's so powerful? That's why art is so powerful. That's why watching things, films, because there's a way that can translate and make us feel things that we just can't in any other way.
Yeah, definitely. And again, watching all these self-development videos and podcasts and interviews, I thought was helping me, but it really wasn't.
It might have helped you, but probably to a certain extent.
Yeah.
It's not going to do everything for you. I think what people think is, I'm going to take this course, or I'm going to work with that person, I'm going to figure this out. But they forget that it's a daily practice. You're learning the tools, but then you actually have to apply the tools every day.
Yeah.
And when you're sort of in self-sabotage, and one part of you is saying, don't do that, you ain't worth shit, don't do that. And then the other part of you is like, no, I am. I want to I want to heal. I want to feel better. That is the competition that we're talking about. Is that you are only ever in direct competition with your worst day. And some days you got to be better than your best excuse.
True.
And that is hard.
Yeah.
That takes everything sometimes. So yes, you can read the letter and think, how could I think that? How could I think about putting my kids through that? But that's not the you that was thinking that, right? And that's the bit where we start to identify with all those thoughts. It wasn't you. You know, you are none of those thoughts.